It's finally that time of year. Summer is winding down, the leaves outside are changing colors, and football is just starting back up. And man, I have waited too long for some good old NFL football! Hello Hunters and Hikers, I'm your host Hunter, and today we'll be looking at week 1 of the NFL season, examining the interesting matchups that the league has to offer and any interesting fantasy implications that may come as a result of these matchups. Oh man, it's so nice to be able to enjoy another great NFL season, and it'd be an honor to have you guys along, so sit back, relax, grab a nice cold beverage, and laugh at all the inevitably terrible picks that I make throughout the season, because there's going to be a lot of them. Like a lot of them. And what better way to kick off the NFL season than with the reigning NFL champions? Because if I said the technical name for the title game in the National Football League, I would lose my career faster than Josh Gordon did. Then the Los Angeles Rams against the Buffalo Bills. The first game of the season usually will go one of two ways. Either a massive slugfest that really hypes everybody up for the NFL season, or a throttling that makes you question why Amazon purchased the rights to these Thursday night football games in the first place. For me, I think it's going to end up being a lovely old slugfest that will leave Buffalo losing like they did those 4 straight Super Bowls. For the Rams, it will leave the modern sports media to ask them if they are the current greatest show on turf, or whatever they talk about nowadays. I haven't watched ESPN in years. And look, I love Josh Allen and the high firepower offense that he possesses and mingles with, and the defensive improvements bringing in Von Miller on an incredibly large contract that I still don't really understand, because he's already going to get a busted up bust in Canton. Okay, I guess he's got enough in the tank? But this Rams team, man. Well, let me just put it like this. The Rams already had the Death Star. Then they added Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson to the mix, and now I don't know what to call it. Are they too powerful for their own good, or are they just gonna wipe the league? I'm not entirely sure, and while I would love to watch the Rams get their snot rocketed by this pretty solid Buffalo Bills team, I think it's fair to say that this Rams team has enough experience, capability, and everything in between to truly win this game over Josh Allen and those Buffalo Bills. Look, the scriptwriters have already been massively successful at making a compelling story for how the LA team wins the Super Bowl with the washed-up quarterback of Detroit. So, could we please just have a change of pace? Well, how about a Sunday afternoon filled with some of the juiciest storylines that the league has to offer? Like the Texans-Colts matchup, which, as of when I created this script, tickets were going for $19 to watch the Colts play against their practice squad team. I mean the Houston Texans. Sorry about that one. Look, all this Texans season's really going to do is check to see if Davis Mills is legit, see if Stingley Jr.'s that it guy on the defense, and if he'll have a similar career path to Jalen Ramsey, where he does everything for his team that drafted him, and then he just leaves for a Super Bowl contender because that's the smarter plan. And to see how long it will take for their season to crash and burn, more in relation to how quickly the Astros will fall in or out of contention of the World Series. My money is on the Astros still remaining in title contentions before the Texans do. No offense, Texans. The Colts, on the other hand, are avoiding to make a fool of themselves like they did at the end of last season when they rode on into Jacksonville, needing just to win against one of the worst teams who had the number 1 draft pick in the league. And what did they do? They had a 4 QBR and a guy playing too much hero ball in Carson Wentz. But don't fret, Indy fans. Your quarterback has been reborn again for the upteenth time since Andrew Luck had to retire. You ruined that poor man's career. You really did. Matt Ryan, though, he's under center for you guys now. And with the capabilities that you have, I expect this offense to have many more dimensions than they did last season with Carson Wentz. Expect Michael Pittman to step into the fold as one of the proper good wide receivers in this league now, because he doesn't have to deal with Carson Wentz playing on broken ankles and that man was just broken, broken. Expect Jonathan Taylor to use the Houston Texans as sort of like a feel-out warm-up game for the rest of the season and how fantasy is going to be progressing. And if anything other than a Colts win occurs here, just chalk it up to them being cursed at this point, man. That's just a curse. But not as cursed as the Detroit Lions, who most notably made news this past offseason for a season of hard knocks and failing to support their best player of the 21st century, Calvin Johnson. At least those who stayed at the team. Stafford won a ring. You don't owe him shit anymore. They have to chew the kneecaps off of the Eagles. Bold strategy against birds, I guess. Look, Jalen Hurts is going to have a lot of fun running circles around Aiden Hutchinson. A.J. Brown is also going to be enjoying breaking Jeff Okudah's ankles and building a reliable passing option when the run game may be lacking, as the Lions' real defense, in my opinion, is predominantly on that defensive line. Although I'd be surprised and watch Miles Sanders run for 150 yards and just spit in my face. Expect the Eagles to start their season of doing not much in the NFC least with a win. Sticking in the NFC least, let's look at the Washington Commanders protecting the Crapula Command Center against the Clowns of Jacksonville. Brian Robinson is still recovering from his injury. I hope that you have a speedy recovery, man. You're supposed to be back week 5. I'm hoping the best for you, brother. But I would expect him to enjoy an early season tank battle between two teams searching for an identity in divisions that have an incredible drop-off from the top 2 teams to the bottom 2 teams. Honestly, this Jacksonville team should know how to competently get the ball moving against a semi-difficult defense and allow Lawrence to showcase his skill set behind the head coach who made Big Stick Nick look like a once-in-a-generation talent for the Eagles in 2017 against Tom Brady in the NFL Championship game. Expect this to be closer than many think, with Jacksonville beginning to pick up the pieces left behind by Urban Meyer and his kicker-kicking ways. Speaking of kickers, Baltimore decided that having Justin Tucker buying them back into games with his cannon of a leg was worthy of a large paycheck for a kicker. And what better place to test out his leg than the lowly swamplands of the New Jersey Jets? And yes, you're not getting the New York moniker. Play in New York State proper to get the moniker. And the MILF man, Zach Wilson. With the improvements to the run game by bringing in Breece Hall in the draft, and also bringing in Garrett Wilson in the draft as well, because you needed to improve everything offensively, that should allow Mama's boy to take some time to study the stands. And don't worry, Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins have him covered for even more time as they run and wear down this Jets defense. They'll be pounding into the Jets D-line until they themselves are seeing ghosts. I would trust the Ravens to clear the Jersey Jets with absolute ease. And you know who else is going to be clearing teams with ease? Try Cincinnati taking on a freshly rebuilding Steelers team trying to figure out which problem is worse. Their quarterback having relatively small hands, or the fact that his last name is Pickett. Just egging on Eli Apple to try and play solid pass defense. Najee Harris and the remnants of that Steelers O-line are going to have the work cut out for them dealing with a secretly powerful defense in the Bengals, led by Jesse Bates III. Seriously, you need to pay this man. He deserves every penny, and your secondary would be garbage without him. Trey Hendrickson and the rest of the defense that made everything difficult for the Rams, at least for a good chunk of that title game. But expect the Bengals to leave the Steelers' defense burnt in more ways than one, although TJ Watt will still get 3 sacks, because what else do the Watt brothers do but just cause problems for opposing quarterbacks, really? Speaking of the battle of quarterbacks, who's ready for the Browns-Panthers, where we have Brisket taking on Baker? Which is better, bread or meat? Well, Deshaun Watson already knows his answer, but he won't be playing a single game until his redemption match against Houston. The more interesting matchup is going to be between McCaffrey, his insane workload, and how long before he ends up on IR. My guess is about a month before he gets run into the ground by Matt Rule. But the real deal here is Baker proving to Cleveland that they should have stuck with him, or so he thinks they should have. Watch Carolina complete Baker's revenge arc, while Browns fans protect themselves in their dirty little bubbles by saying, if only Deshaun was playing. Hopefully he doesn't end up with any happy endings down there in Cleveland. Speaking of teams that don't have a chance in the NFC South but think that they can do something, the Saints are heading down to Atlanta to battle their fierce rivals in the Falcons. Would be a much more intimidating matchup if Atlanta actually had a quarterback that could throw the ball to Kyle Pitts or Cordell Patterson, but I guess we can work with the Mariota all day and night long. And I would say that there's more receiving options, but, well, one of them is currently suspended for betting on his own team. Why? And Drake London hasn't established himself yet in the NFL, and I don't think he's going to this year with some very interesting quarterbacking options, I'll be honest. Speaking of people who should be suspended but aren't, Kamara will utilize this game to showcase his usual running ways by beating defenders on his way to the end zone. And don't forget about famous Jameis eating his way to one of those weird-looking W things. Saints easily take this one, which works out for both teams, honestly, considering that Atlanta wants to win the quarterback sweepstakes for next year's draft. Another team looking to get better from the draft, but more from shortcomings of drafting Cole Strange in the first round. Like, what? The New England Patriots sliding their way down to Miami to battle at the Hard Rock against a changed Dolphins team, fully allowing Tua to sling the rock to every single possible pass catcher you could ask for. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki. But will Mac be able to throw more than 5 passes in a game? Or will the combined powers of Matt Patricia, the ATV rider, and Joe Judge run a QB sneak on 3rd and 9 inside your own red zone, spiral Mac's progression into the dumpster? Expect Miami to win, but it could very well take a miracle that will bring them forward into the limelight. Speaking of the limelight, is Jimmy G going to try out that modeling career? Or... oh wait, the Niners re-signed him to be a backup for Trey Lance? Wow, some teams really are trying to win that quarterback sweepstakes in next year's draft, huh? Well, regardless, they travel to Windy City to take on the Bears in a matchup that will pit 2 gunslingers against each other. The key difference is that the weapons that Trey Lance has access to includes George Kittle, who once carried 4 men 10 yards before deciding to go down, Deebo Samuel, the end zone maestro, and Brandon Ayuk, who's become a favorite target of Lance's in the preseason. Whereas Fields has, Mooney, I guess? Cole Kmet? Yeah, I'm going to take the Niners to smoke past an awkwardly rebuilding Bears team here. Speaking of awkward rebuilds, hey Giants, are you doing anything interesting with your rebuild? Oh, you're sticking with Danny Derps for this season. Yes? Well, that's about all you need to know about the Giants going up against the Tennessee Titans in the 4 o'clock games this week. 2 words. Derrick Henry. He's going to blast by that Giants D-line and create another Josh Norman, Stephon moment. I already feel it in my bones. I'll take the Titans easily in this matchup, just purely on the difference in run game alone. Speaking of the run game, let's see how the Chargers recover from losing their chance in the playoffs by allowing the Raiders to run it right past them and kick the game-winning field goal on the last play of the game of the regular season. Hey, wait, who do the Chargers play again? Oh, motherfucker! For some reason, the Chargers will get an opportunity to begin the season on the right foot by smiting the opponent that screwed them over by the flip of a coin in the ghost of Madden. Rest in peace, and may EA stop ruining your name, even if it's just for one day. With the major upgrades on both teams, expect this to be yet another bloodbath of two teams contending for playoff spots. But I'm going to give my edge to the Chargers here because while they're basically playing in an away game, even though it's their home stadium, they're looking for blood in the water after last season. And there's no way Carlson's leg can keep the Raiders in this again, right? Right? Oh, God, please be right. Wait, was it Carlson the kicker for the Vikings before he was cut? I'm wondering how they're doing. I mean, Kirk isn't the best quarterback. Still love you though. Go green. You've got a lot of weapons. I mean, Dalvin Cook, Jay Jettas, Adam the Feline, Thielen. I mean, what could go wrong? Oh, they play against Aaron Rodgers week one? Back to back MVP Aaron Rodgers week one. At least they don't have Devontae Adams, though. I mean, look, he doesn't have the same weapons that he did last season. And the Packers have done a lot to bring back a whole bunch of weapons and give him the opportunity to be successful with the pieces that are there. And he doesn't just need these receivers, he still has a wonderful backfield tandem of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. It means that they still have a lot of work to do in order to reach the NFC Championship game and be the ultimate losers once again. With the running back tandem that the Packers currently possess, it'll enable Rodgers to have enough time to create another vintage moment in him and strike another win against this poor Vikings team that is really, really good on paper, but I think are going to have some weird pains post Mike Zimmer. Speaking of clutch, Kansas City rounds out the 4 o'clock Eastern games with a great matchup against Arizona. Quite intriguing to see how these strong quarterbacks fare without the wide receivers that they've built their legacies upon so far. But that's not to say that Mahomes and Kyler don't have the weapons to throw to, not by any means. You got the likes of Juju Smith-Schuster and Rondale Moore. Look, yeah, I know, Kansas City has Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce is a monster. Yeah, I know, but let's be honest, Tyreek Hill built his career up pretty well too. The real interesting thing will be how James Conner battles through a questionable Chiefs D-line and if CEH can finally find the end zone. He won't, but he doesn't have to when Travis Kelce does that job for him anyway. For me, this is the start of the Chiefs' reigning domination and clawing their way back into the AFC Championship game and on into the NFL Championship game. On the topics of teams looking to make a name for themselves, Tampa Bay is looking to continue building the GOAT's wonderful resume. I mean, he was supposed to retire, but then Schefter screwed him on that, and then he took this weekend off, and all these other days off too, and I don't know, he's the GOAT. Don't question his style or tactics. And they will be battling week one up against the team with arguably the worst ever recognized clock management in a playoff game, the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott will try his best to pass through the teeth of this difficult Tampa Bay defense, known for their massive turnover potential, and Elliott and Pollard will have to find a way past Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and the rest of the Bucs defense to try and find the end zone and not burn all the clock that they need in order to win a game. And for Brady, he can sling the ball to elite options like Mike, Chris, and Julio. And he also has Leonard Fournette to barrel down the middle of that Dallas defense on a moment's notice. I'll take Tampa Brady here for sure. Finally, we round out this beautiful week one with the old tale of a player looking to beat his old team with Russell Broncos country, Wilson, riding into Lumen Field to defeat Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. And while I would try to find some reason here for why Seattle would win this game, I can't when their starting quarterback is Geno Smith and their backup has been noted on record to say that half of the time he throws the football in the league, his brain internally goes, uh-oh. Like the best thing y'all have is Kenneth Walker and he's still dealing with hernia problems. He got surgery for it though. Best of luck and good recovery because you are a home run hitter of running back. And no, I'm not just saying that because I'm an MSU fan, so shh. Y'all Seahawks fans got fleeced by the Jets to take on Jamal Adams and a questionable secondary. And you'll have to deal with that for a while Denver is working on making their case to be one of the best teams in the AFC West with an established win here against Russ's old roost. And with that, We have combed through the entire first week of the NFL season. Next week, we will look at what happened and what we have to look forward to going into the teeth of this proper season. As always, I'm your host, Hunter. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends if you've chuckled or chortled or laughed or done anything in between. And I will see you in the next video. And if I don't, have a great day, and remember, be a good person. Peace. The Colts, on the other hand, have had to deal with making a fool of themselves, suffering a worse fate than Calvin Ridley's suspension. A loss to Jacksonville in their motherfucker. You know what? Fuck it. We'll just leave it in.